And now, straight out of Boston, Massachusetts, it's time for Entertainment Talk Nation, your #1 entertainment talk show, discussing everything from the movies to video games and more. And now, here is your host, Robert Rosado.
Hey everyone, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation podcast. This is a special half-hour podcast dedicated to The Walking Dead, and I am flying solo tonight. Xander, unfortunately, is having a very bad toothache, so otherwise he would be here. And Olivia, I'm sure, is very busy. But I've been wanting to do this podcast for quite some time regarding The Walking Dead, and I figured there's no better time than now. I mean, I'm going to jump right into this. So I know yesterday I did a review, and a lot of people were very disappointed with it, and rightfully so. It was a very short review. I didn't really express how I felt about the episode. And the ironic thing is that after I saw the show, I said to myself, you know what? I think I'll do this review tomorrow. You know, because I was very disappointed with what I saw. I wasn't very happy, wasn't in a good mood with it. And it's a catch-22 when you do YouTube, because on one hand, if you do your reviews on a normal day and you always follow it up after watching a show, when you don't do it, people start to wonder, hey, where's your review? This and that, this and that. And, you know, you do feel a sense of obligation to provide these reviews for the viewers because they take the time out of their schedule to watch what you have to say, to listen to what you have to say. On the flip side of that, though, I probably should have went with my gut feeling, because I think I would have done a much better job the following day. I should have just go ahead and stuck with what I wanted to do, because really, that review was just a result of me just being disappointed with the show ever since episode 4 up to this point. Now, a lot of people made, you know, a couple of people expressed their displeasures, not only with the review, but with the format. And I want to address some of those things before I get into my thoughts on this season so far. So, to address some of the comments, and it wasn't a lot of comments, it was maybe a handful, you know, maybe 5 or 6 people. But I'm the kind of person that, you know, just because there's a minority number of people expressing themselves, they shouldn't be ignored. You know, there's always this general rule everybody likes to go with, majority rules. But I don't really like to think that way, because when I express myself in the minority, I like to be acknowledged, despite the fact that I'm not part of the majority rule. So to address what some of you guys said, a lot of that review was just a result of me being very disappointed. And you could probably tell just by my attitude halfway through the video when I started chiming jokes and making snide remarks. And I understand your frustration. I know that the format is new. It's something to get used to. And to be quite honest, I took a lot of what you guys had to say more as a compliment than anything else, because it does mean a lot to me that you guys value my opinions and value my thoughts. And because you expressed your criticism based on that video and expressed your interest in hearing my thoughts and my opinions, it's only fair that I give it to you. And so what I'm going to do going forward is I'm going to continue this format. If you saw my channel update, I gave specific reasons as to why I've gone this route. But to be honest, it doesn't mean that I can't incorporate what I used to do. And I should, you know, because that was a part of my channel that I really did enjoy. I always look for ways to try and evolve and continue to improve, because that's just the nature that's just how I am. That's the nature of this beast. I've made a lot of changes in my channel for 1 year being in existence. For those veterans who have been here since day one, they know, they've seen all these changes that I've made over the year. And the reason I do that is because, like I said, even though this is a hobby for me, even though this is not a career, I always look to improve in everything that I do. So I really think the format, once it plays itself out, I'm still very new to doing YouTube. I think it's going to be fine. Now what I need to do is learn how to incorporate my thoughts and some of what I used to do into that. And then I think I'll come up with a happy medium. So that's something I'm going to work on going forward. And I want to thank you guys for making your comments. It did take me a while to really look at my video from last week and say, all right, there's room for improvement here. So, and I do take constructive criticism very well. There are people out there who like to criticize, but they're very malicious about it. But you guys were very, very kind. You were very direct, but you guys were respectful, and I appreciate that. Now, to share my thoughts on what is bothering me about this season so far. I don't expect The Walking Dead to be an action-packed episode all year. I understand the budget. I understand that AMC is a very, very, very cheap company. So they put it all on the table for the first episode, which was great. The next 2 episodes that followed were so good. They were very dark. They had a group, the Hunters, that played played a very, very scary concept, the whole cannibalism. That was so enjoyable. And they really lost me when they went with the Beth episode. Now I'm gonna put this in a nutshell here, because this involves everything from episode 4 up to now. When you look at the last episode, last night, you really sit back and think about it. Everything centers around Beth. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there who have really clinged on to Beth. They really like her, and that's all fine and well. I don't have a problem with Beth. I've never disliked Beth on the show. The problem I have now with the character is that they're trying to make her be something that, in my eyes, she is not. She is not a badass. I don't find her to be a survivor. I find her to be one of those people in the group that do like general maintenance. You know, she can clean, she can tidy up, she can take care of the kids. She doesn't strike me as a killer. She doesn't strike me as a survivor. The only way they could ever convince me of that is if they develop her, which they haven't. And here's my example. You take Carol. Carol is not too different from Beth when we first meet her. Very innocent. She's abused. Beth's not abused, but very innocent. She was abused. She had a kid. She couldn't really fend for herself. She couldn't fight. She was not a survivor. Carol was not a survivor the first 2 episodes, the first 2 seasons. And then in season 3, it slowly started to happen towards the end, but it really started to develop and take shape in season 4. They took the time to nurture her, to build her character, develop it, show you reasons why she made this transition, and it's worked out fantastically. They haven't done that for Beth. They have not done that for Beth. To take Beth from what she was and now try and transform her in a matter of a couple of episodes, I just find it to be, it's just very unconvincing. And now she's more or less the focal point of what's going on. I mean, yes, Carol is she's in the mix, okay? She's at the hospital now, so now they have more than just Beth to rescue. But the premise of all this comes from Beth. From the time she got captured last season up until this point. Now, between all that, we had other episodes that just were very unfulfilling. Let's take into account the episode with Abraham, Glenn, Eugene, and that crew. When there was the reveal that Eugene was not a scientist, I really felt that that episode was in a bad spot. When you consider you haven't even brought closure to Beth, and if your plans were to extend Beth's story to the mid-season finale, then I think they should have kept the Abraham and Eugene episode for the second half. The reason is because I feel that Eugene revealing that he's not a scientist and that there's no cure is a large reveal. That is a big deal. And it felt so underwhelming when he announced it. The only people from where I was watching it, me and my wife, the only people who looked remotely shocked were the people on the show. I mean, and even then, Tara was quick to forgive him, and she has her reasons. And it's like, I mean, it just felt so kind of forced. We want this out there. I just thought the timing was bad. It was bad timing. And even in that episode, that was the only spot in the episode that was worth highlighting. And to me, it just bombed. It just bombed. It didn't feel like a big deal. Now, granted, people know that I've read the comics. I know the deal in the comics, but let me tell you something. Just because I know the outcome in the comics doesn't mean that I'm not going to feel a sense of shock or surprise when I see something on the show that plays out similarly. Prime example was when the governor killed Herschel. I knew what was going to happen there. I knew that the only difference between that scene and the scene in the comic was who the character was. But to be quite honest, it still shocked the hell out of me. The reveal with Eugene was not. It was so lackluster. Now, we take that. We got the Beth episode, the Abraham Eugene episode. Now we move on to Carol and Daryl. Okay. Now, here's an episode that had every reason in the world to be a fantastic episode when you consider these are the two of the popular characters on the show. And it was very slow. It was a very methodic episode. They spent so much time in silence looking out windows. And then when they did talk, it was stretched dialogue. They're eating popcorn. You know, I'm not saying it should have been an action-packed episode, but we know these characters. We know who Daryl is. We know who Carol is. Yes, we got a little Carol backstory. And when they did that, that was fine. I was fine with that. But aside from that, the progression was so methodic. It's almost like they were forcing the show to slow down so they can eat up some time while they reach their next destination, or the next episode, I should say, and continue to try and develop what to me is probably the worst mid-season buildup of the show so far. I mean, when you consider what we've had in the past, this showdown with the hospital group there's nothing there. There's nothing there. There's no sense of, you know, first of all, there's no sense of urgency. It just, like I said, it's been very methodic. There's no sense of like, I don't feel worried, because in my mind, there's no way these cops in this hospital should have any chance of beating Rick and the group, because they've been in this hospital since this went down. They've had very few times where they've had to go out. And when they do go out, they have a car. They pick up other people. They bring them back to the hospital. Very minimal interaction with the walkers. So you pit that group up against Rick's group, who's been seasoned. They've seen the worst of it. They've fought the governor. They dealt with Terminus. They've dealt with walkers. There's no competition. They should be able to eat up this hospital cop, these group of cops in the hospital. And what's going to happen is, I'm sure in the next episode, something dramatic's going to happen that's going to be like, oh shit. But, and I might even enjoy it, but it's not going to be the same, because I'm not convinced. They haven't sold me on this hospital group. You got a bunch of guys who just want to rape the woman, and they just want to kind of have their way. You got a leader there who's not even any confidence in herself. She's got mental instability. I can't even see her thinking straight when dealing or negotiating with Rick. I don't see how she's going to outthink him or outsmart him. So because of that, and because I know that they're gonna make an attempt to make this finale, mid-season finale, a big deal, you're gonna get a combination of a show for me that may very well play out with great action, maybe some suspense, and maybe something jaw-dropping like a death or something crazy happening. But even after that, and I might, like I said, I might enjoy it, but even after that, it's not going to feel very compelling, because in my eyes already, this group they shouldn't even be walking on the same street as Rick's group when you compare what they've been through versus what Rick's groups have been through. These people at the hospital, do you really think they could handle a person like the governor? Do you think they could handle a group like Terminus? Hell no. So what makes anyone think they can handle Rick and his group? And that's what I'm getting at. Like, this is a very bad mid-season finale coming up, I think. Or at least the setup. I mean, I can't say the episode's going to be bad. I haven't seen it yet. I got to be fair. But the setup getting there is horrible. And then you top this off that all this has to do with Beth, a character that, if you want to be real, a character that in a real life zombie apocalypse in this situation, let's be honest, people would have ditched her. Is she really worth saving? What really has she brought to the group? Okay, the reason for saving her right now is because she's family. She's part of the group, you know? But when you really come down to survival, is it worth risking the lives of some of the more, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Some of the more contributing group members to save someone who contributes very little? You know, she sings the occasional song. She'll rock the baby to sleep. But what else? I mean, if you look at Beth's character, when has she ever really survived on her own? She never has. She's always been with the group. And when the group split up, she was with Daryl, probably the best survivor in the group. So she really hasn't done anything to prove to me, character-wise, that she can make it on her own or that she's worth saving in a situation like this. Now, Carol being there is more of a reason to make it convincing why the group is there. So I think when you look at it from that standpoint, I can understand why the writers put her there, because they probably thought the same thing. Like, you know, this whole thing going down to save Beth is not as convincing. So maybe we should throw Carol in the mix, and that'll give it more, you know, that'll give it more foundation as to why they're doing what they're doing. You know, so, and that's my problem. That's my problem, is that you start the season off so excellently with these 3 episodes, the action-packed episode, and then the 2 very dark, suspenseful episodes showing the brutality of the group, showing how the group's evolved, and we take a stop there to focus on Beth. It just, to me, it just makes no sense whatsoever. It's just my opinion that it's the worst decision that they pick now to try and make Beth the next Carol. It's just not convincing, and they haven't taken the time to develop her. 1 minute she's singing and she's taking care of the baby. Yeah, she shoots the occasional rifle and things like that. Now suddenly she's this badass that's worth saving? No, I don't buy it. And that's why Carol's there. That's why Carol's there. Carol's there to make so that this all makes sense, so that there's reason for them to go in there. Because quite honestly, you think the creators of the show didn't think for 1 second, if we put Carol in here, yeah, this will be a lot better. It'll be worth them going in there for. And it gives more purpose to Beth, because now Beth is in a position to save her. But it's just, it was very, and then now this last episode, the one that I did the review for yesterday, that I acknowledged was very bad because I was so upset at what the show was doing. It's unfortunate that first of all, the encounter with Rick's group and the police was very lackluster. It was very underwhelming. There was nothing exciting, suspenseful. The cops just got caught. You know, when Bob, you know, Bob number 2, you know, when he knocked out Sasha, I saw that coming a mile away. And it was so predictable, you know, and it's just, I hold this show to a high standard, because there are 2 shows that I watch that are my top shows, and I would never give anything up to watch them. And I consider them the 2 best shows on TV. That's Game of Thrones and Walking Dead. Everything else to me is second tier. And to see Walking Dead have 4 straight episodes that, in my opinion, were very lackluster, uneventful, lots of filler, and just a bad placement and bad decision making is very disappointing. It's very disappointing. And you know, does that mean it's going to last forever? No. I think the show will recover. Does that mean that the second half is going to be garbage? No. Actually, I really think the second half is going to be fantastic, because there's only one way to go from now, you know. A lot of people argue, well, Rob, you know, you got to understand, they're trying to develop, they have a big group, they're trying to develop the characters, and that's fine. But maybe it's time to start trimming the fat a little bit, you know. There's certain characters they can kill off, and they probably should. I'm sorry to say this, I think Beth is one of them. I think Tyrese is one. Tyrese is probably the next to go, when you consider that he's so adamant about maintaining humanity and doing the right thing. Those kinds of things just get you killed on this show. So I think Tyrese is on, I think he's probably on the chopping block, so to speak. Even the death of the show, Bob's death, was just not, I did not feel anything for that. You know, like, I thought he was a cool character, and yeah, he seemed like, all right, you know, yeah, Sasha's lover, but and I did like him, but when he died, it just, you know, it just didn't do it for me, you know. And I know that it was very, very reminiscent of what happened in the comic book, but once again, a different character. But Bob hasn't been there long enough, and Bob hasn't been developed long enough for me to care. They acknowledged that this guy had an alcohol problem, but they never explored as to why and when it started. You know, they acknowledged, they presented so many things about this character, but they threw it down the trash and they used him as fodder for season 5 as a death. So how could I really care about somebody that they really didn't nurture? So it's these kinds of things that have really bothered me about the show this year, that I just think either it's almost like they want to copy the comic, but they're looking for ways to avoid being 100% duplicate. And the areas where they're not being 100% duplicate are the areas where they're just making the wrong decision. You know what I mean? They're just like the Eugene reveal. That was a big miss. That was a big miss. It was a poor placement of the episode. That's something that should have came later after this whole Beth saga ended. You know, Bob's death, very underwhelming. His character wasn't developed enough and wasn't nurtured enough for me to care. Sasha, I've never been a fan of, so seeing her in pain doesn't really bother me. You know, because she's always been kind of bossy. She's another character we haven't seen too much development. You know, all we know about her is that she can be tough. She's definitely a good fighter, and she has a hard time trusting people. Outside of that, what else do we know? What else do we, you know? So a lot of missed opportunities. I mean, you know, Sasha's been on the show since season 3. Plenty of time to develop her, and it's been very little development. You know, Bob came on the show in season 4, and they looked like they were going to develop him quite a bit, and then they stopped, and then suddenly he's dead. You know, Carol got great development. You know, the main characters, Rick, Carl, Daryl, they continue to get the development they need. Tyrese is another character that just hasn't developed into what I thought he would, but at least he's gotten some development. You know, so those are the primary reasons that I'm having an issue with the show this year, and it is very frustrating to watch, and I think that was a result of what the video was yesterday. And you know, but I mean, I'm not going to stop watching it. Overall, I love the show. I can't just let 4 episodes I'm not happy about you know, pull me away from it. I'm hoping the mid-season finale is you know, a lot of fun. I'm hoping a lot of good things happen. You know, because it surrounds Beth, you know, I'm trying not to pass any judgment, but because I'm already sick and tired of this whole Beth saga, because they've really tried to make that the focus of this first half almost. You know, it's almost like, all right, I'm almost at the point now where it's like, okay, let me just get through this damn Beth saga and move on. But you know, it's not fair to the characters. It's not fair to the other characters on the show itself. And I'm trying to look at it from a different perspective, but she's just a wasted character. She has not had enough development to garner this much attention or this much screen time and to be the focus of the first half after the whole Terminus saga ended. But you know, that's how it plays out. So that's really what's eating me up about these episodes. You know, I know everybody doesn't agree. I know everybody sees things differently. That's just how I see it. And you know, like I said, I will definitely incorporate these kinds of thoughts into my reviews more, along with doing my new format. And I will, you know, I'll definitely do my best to try and do the best of both worlds. I definitely feel I can do it. But I do appreciate you guys' feedback, and I do appreciate that you guys are adjusting to this new format, because again, it's a new thing for me. I'm still trying to work out the kinks. I haven't perfected it yet. I've had a lot of practice over the last 3 months doing it, and I felt it was ready to start doing it full stride and continue to try and improve upon it. But again, I do appreciate that you guys like the older format, and I'm going to incorporate the older format into the new format and try and come up with a happy medium, because all my viewers mean a lot to me, and I'm not, just because 1 or 2 or 3 people express their displeasures doesn't mean they deserve to be ignored. So and I know I don't talk a lot in the comments, but you know, I'm on the Nation Facebook page a lot. E.T.N has its own Facebook page. That's a good opportunity to talk to me or make suggestions or request videos that you might want to see. That's where I pretty much talk to everybody who subscribed to the channel, and it's a lot of fun. So that's a good way to kind of communicate with me if you don't find me in the comments very much. So But anyway, that's it, guys. That is pretty much all I have to say. Those are my reasons I have issues with these last few episodes. Once again, I want to thank you guys for your feedback and your constructive criticism. I want you to know it has been taken into account and it will be addressed going forward. I will continue to work to make better videos for you guys, because I know you guys take the time out of your busy schedule to watch me, and I want to give you the best quality that I possibly can. Anyway, so this podcast, that's pretty much it. I'm going to upload this on YouTube. You guys will obviously might be hearing it there, but you can also download it at Podbean, and the link to my Podbean account is in the description, and automatically once you hit that link, you can download the episode. Or if you have iTunes, you can wait till tomorrow night around this time, and it should be up on iTunes. It takes about 24 hours for it to go from my primary account up into iTunes. But that's it, guys. Thank you for listening. This is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.
Thank you for listening to Entertainment Talk Nation. Don't forget to rate and follow and visit us on YouTube at E.T.N, where you can subscribe to the channel for daily content.